Welcome to the All Outdoors Photography Podcast. This podcast is about all things outdoor photography, including landscapes, wildlife, macro, and more. The show features two talented photographers, Henry Doyle and Ryan Taylor, who bring their different experiences in photography to the podcast. The show is released weekly every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. In today's episode, Henry and Ryan get to talk to Hector Astorga, a full-time wildlife photographer based in South Texas. Hector leads tours and workshops across the world, including Africa, North, Central, and South America. He has won multiple awards and competitions, including ones hosted by Nature's Best Photography, National Wildlife Federation, and NANPA. His images are featured in magazines like Audubon, National Geographic, Ranger Rick, and Texas Parks and Wildlife. We hope you enjoy this episode as much as we did.
Welcome back to episode 61 of the All Outdoors Photography Podcast. And today we're having a talented wildlife photographer on the show.
Yes, we have Hector Astorga on the show. Welcome, Hector. Go ahead and tell us some more about your photography and your background and who you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me, guys. My name is Hector Astorga. I'm a wildlife photographer based in South Texas. A lot of people know me because I run the Santa Clara Ranch here outside of McAllen, Texas. We are a photo ranch that hosts photographers from pretty much all over the globe. We've been running the ranch now for about 12, 13 years. On top of that, I also do photo workshops pretty much everywhere, all over North, Central, and South America. I go to Africa, a couple locations in Africa, and also in Scandinavia. I'm primarily a wildlife photographer. I do a little bit of work in landscape and some of the other genres of photography, but most of my work is in wildlife. Doing this seriously for the last, like I say, 10, 12 years, and full time for the last 6.
That's really cool. Yeah, what made you want to get into photography?
Photography for me it started as a hobby back when I was in my teenage years. My father was a photographer. Now, my father was not a wildlife photographer. He was just into photography, a photography hobbyist. He had a small dark room and, was all into that. Oh, wow. I picked it up back then. This is back in the 80s. And then I kind of lost interest in it. And then now I've been an outdoorsman pretty much my entire life. I love being outdoors. Everything from hiking, hunting, fishing, camping. That's always been something I've done pretty much my entire life. So when I picked up photography again, back in 2006, it was something that I wanted to add to my outdoor activities. And the interest in photography had always been there since my teenage years. So it's something that really, really took off. I mean, I really got into it, and it's been a gret 12 years, to be honest with you. The last 12 years doing it now as a job and as a I can't be happier to be doing what I do now.
Awesome. Yeah, so 12 years ago we were probably right on the edge of like film and digital. So where did you start
Correct.
with there?
I got serious in 2006 when it had just switched over.
Okay.
I did play with it, of course, back in the film days. I shot slides and I did all that. But again, back then it was just a hobby, something that I did on my spare time. Once I got serious, that was back in 2006 when digital had just really pretty much, taken over film. Film was, if not dead, pretty close to being dead by then. And so pretty much my entire professional career has been in digital.
Awesome. Yeah, film is definitely... it can create a unique look, but I think for wildlife, you're going to want digital in pretty much all scenarios. So,
no, it's just so much easier for everything that we do. As wildlife photographers, one of the things we don't have, of course, is the luxury of time because things happen in an instant, and so of course, digital was a game changer, and it's just so much easier now compared to what it was back in the film days. Now with all this new mirrorless technology and all the new technology that these new camera bodies are coming out, is making it easier and easier for us. So yes, digital to me was definitely a game changer.
That's awesome. Yeah. Did you carry over any kind of like film knowledge? Like do you do a lot of editing kind of, or do you lead back to the film days and just kind of work with what you got?
I kind of work with what I got. I truly believe that if we can, if you can get it right in camera, your final product is much better. not that I don't like editing in the computer, but it's out of all the things that I do, it's probably the one I like the least. So I don't spend much time, I don't like to spend hours in front of the computer editing. Not only that, I shoot so much that I really don't have the time. If I have to work on an image more than 5 minutes, it's just too long. My time is just, I just don't have it. I mean, for example, today, I've been out today photographing with clients. Just today I shot, I don't know, 1,200 images. And then I'm done with one shoot, and then 2 days later, I'm in another one. So my workflow has to be quick because I don't have the luxury of time to sit there and work on images for days. So I'm a big believer to try to get it right in camera as close as possible. And of course, there is some editing that needs to be done. All images need it, in the digital world. But the less you have to do in post, to me, the better.
Yeah. Explain to us, maybe the culling process for an imagery, when you really sit back and look at them, what do you really look for as being a standout in your portfolio?
Basically for me is when I'm shooting, the ones I really like is something that stands out from the rest, something unique, a unique perspective, or something that has, great depth, a great background. You captured, or when you capture some, unique behavior, that's kind of what stands out for me. Those are the ones that are really kind of, that's kind of the images that I'm after. So when I'm shooting something, it's always in the back of your mind by the time you get to the computer that where you got something like that, throughout the day, right? So usually, what I do is I'll download, all the raw files for that day, and I kind of know where to go where I got that one image or that one sequence of images that I know that I want to work on, that I know that I want to actually, process. And again, it's usually something like that. It's a unique perspective, golden light, capturing behavior, something that stands out from the rest. Something, you're shooting a subject. It doesn't have to be a very unique subject. It can be a common subject, let's say like a cardinal or green jay for us here in Texas. But if you captured it, in a specific perspective that's not normal, or you captured in some extraordinary conditions like golden light, perfect background, landing, wing flare, or something like that, that's kind of what I look for, and I go back to, once I'm in the processing, mode, so those are the images that I'm going to work on, and those are the images that I'm going to, save onto my, onto my catalogs of the images that I really, really like myself.
It's awesome. Yeah, that's a great process there. Do you kind of instantly export those, or do you just kind of leave them in your catalog for a while and get to exporting later?
Basically, what I do is I'll download all the images for the day. I'll be honest with you, I don't sit down and delete because, again, I don't have time. So memory is less expensive than my time. So what I'll do is I'll download everything, and I'll work on the images that I do like, and those get saved on my RAID system on my main computer, and they also get saved on the drives where I download everything, and then I just move on to the next day. So I really don't sit there and start, let's say I shot 1,000 images a day in that day. I might work on maybe 15 of them, 20 of them, if that. And then, but I don't delete all the rest. They just kind of stay there. It's what I call the bulk. So, and the reason I leave them there is because later on I might come back and I might need something from that shoot, and I have plenty to pick from. And again, memory is becoming cheaper and cheaper nowadays. So to me, it's easy to just download everything, grab what I want, save what I want that I processed, and then just leave the rest there. And I could always come back to them later. And then as my drives fill up, I just get another drive. Because for me to sit there and go through 1,500 images and delete what I want and delete what I don't, and not delete what I don't want, it just takes too long.
Oh yeah, it takes hours.
That's understandable.
Correct.
Exhausting.
So I just I'll go through them. Okay, this one I like, I'll work on that one. This one I like, I'll work on that one. And the rest just stay there. I mean, I'll just, and again, it's a good backup to have. So later on, if I do need to go back to a certain shoot, I have plenty to pick from.
So in terms of that bulk images that you mentioned, do you or have you shot stock photography? Is that a place where you upload them to?
No, I don't do much stock photography. I do sell to magazines. I get the want list from different magazines. When I get the want list, I'll go back to if there's something there that they're looking for, I'll go back to my archives and pull from there. But the bulk of my work, I would say, as a professional photographer, is leading photographers, guiding photographers here in South Texas, and of course my photo tours and workshops. That's about 70% of my work.
Yeah, so you want to tell us a bit more about kind of your workshops and how those started and what you do today?
Yeah, sure. I started guiding at the ranch when we built the ranch, and started guiding photographers down here in South Texas, and of course I was traveling for my own photography back then, and through social media and some different forums that I was a member of, people started to see my work, and they started asking me, "Hey, I see that you went here. Are you ever going to take a group out there? Are you ever take a client out there?" Because I was already getting clients at the ranch here in South Texas. And at the time, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really interested in doing something like that, because the whole logistics and the whole taking people out of the state or out of the country just was not something that appealed to me. But I just kept getting more and more and more requests. So I said, you know what, I'll do one. And I decided to do one workshop at Bosque del Apache in New Mexico, because it was a place that I knew really well. Easy shooting, a lot of targets, a lot of things you can shoot. So I said it should go well there. And this was back in, if I remember correctly, this was back in 2012 or 2011, around there. So I did one. I took 4 clients. I said, I'll take 4 people to Bosque. So I took 4 clients to Bosque del Apache. We did 4 days out there. I came back and I was like, that was easy. That went very well. Maybe I'll do another one. And I just started very small, 2 workshops a year, 3 workshops a year, on top of what I already did at the ranch. Now at the ranch, I've been doing workshops for a long time, but that's home. So that was not really traveling. But I just started doing, 1 or 2 every so often. And then it went to 3, and then it went to 4, to what it is today. This year, I have 22 workshops worldwide. I already did 2, and I'm starting number 3, this week. So I have 19 to go before the year's over. So that's how busy it's become, and I'm not complaining. It's great. I mean, I love what I do. I get to travel all over the world with clients, and we get to go and photograph at some fantastic locations. And but I started very small, and I just kept growing it to what it is today. Now I must say that this year, the reason I have so many, I normally don't do 22 workshops in 1 year, is because the last 2 years, because of COVID, a lot of stuff has been postponed. So I'm still making up trips and workshops that didn't go 2 years ago and didn't go last year because of the pandemic. If everything goes this year and we don't get shut down, or we get to travel to wherever we want to go, I'll be back to normal for next year. And I normally do about 15 workshops a year.
Wow.
So this year, of course, I have quite a bit more because, again, of all the stuff that has been postponed, all the stuff that we're making up.
Right. It's like you're basically playing catch up at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, this year is still catch up. I mean, we're still in catch up mode, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we still get to go everywhere we want. We need to go. That nothing gets canceled or postponed. And if that happens, I'll be back to my regular schedule for next year. And no complaints. I mean, it is a lot of work this year. I'm going to be gone a lot. But it's better than the alternative from 2 years ago that we sat at home for 10 months doing nothing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For sure, yes. Yeah.
So it's all good. I mean, I believe me, I'm not complaining. It's all good.
Yeah.
And I love what I do. I love this. I love going out with clients. I love going out with fellow photographers to photograph. And it is work for me, but the saying, if you love what you do, if you love your work, it ain't work. I'm a true believer in that. I'm very blessed that I am living that.
That's awesome. Yeah. One quick look at your website. I mean, it shows sold out workshops in Finland, Costa Rica, Guatemala. Congrats on all that success. That's pretty great.
Thank you. I've been very blessed that I would say about 4 or 5 years ago, once I started getting a decent following and people started meeting me, and of course the people that come to the ranch. My problem is that my workshops sell out quickly, and the spaces go quickly. It's a good problem to have, and that's why I do a lot of 2 workshops. Like, for example, in Finland, I just got back from Finland. I was out there for 21 days. I did back to back because one workshop fills up, I'm already there. I'll just do another one. And also, I'm a big believer in small groups. All my workshops are very small in terms of participants. If I'm by myself, I don't do any more than if it's just me leading, I'll do 4 or 6 people tops. If I have a co-leader, I only go up to 8. I don't have any workshops that are bigger than 8, because I do believe in the small workshop group, because the participant gets a lot more. It is easier for us, and being that it's photography, of course, we you want to give your client the attention that they need, because these are instructional tours, and if you have too much people, it's just not as enjoyable as a smaller group.
So you're not necessarily just guiding them to the sites; you're teaching them along the way as well.
That is correct. Yes, all my trips are instructional photo trips. So
Awesome.
it's an instructional trip, and I have clients of every different level. I have some clients that are very advanced. I have some clients that are very new, and so I get a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And but still, these are instructional photo workshops, and throughout the whole workshop is a teaching type of environment.
Cool. That's awesome. Is it all in the field based, or do you ever do any kind of editing stuff with them?
I would
afterward?
say that with me, it's going to be about 95% in the field.
Okay.
I do offer some classroom type stuff, but that's more of the webinars and the different things that I offer. But on trips, my trips are really targeted to be in the field and to spend as much time in the field as possible. We have a saying on my trips: photography trumps everything. If it's good and we need to skip lunch, we will skip lunch.
Oh yeah.
Photography trumps everything.
Right.
So it is mostly in the field type of shooting. We've been in Africa, we've been in Kenya some days that it's so good that we leave the camp at 6. We don't go back till 6 o'clock at night. We're out all day long. Now we'll have snacks and we'll have things for people. Of course, we're prepared for that. But if it's really good, we'll skip lunch. I mean, again, photography trumps everything. Sometimes what will happen is, like, during our break times, I'll tell clients, if you have any questions regarding processing, just bring your computer out here to the dining room area or wherever the main area is, wherever we're staying, and I'll go over different things with them. I'll teach them, how to process something and things like that. But it's not really something that's part of the schedule. The schedule is to be out in the field, and then in our downtime, I will help them with processing or any kind of questions they might have.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like with wildlife in particular, it's like, of course, editing the images is important, but like the experience, I think, of just actually being out there and viewing it, photographing, it's really what people might be after too.
With my groups, that's what I found out. Now that I've been doing this as long as I have, and people want to be in the field. They're going to Africa with you for 20 days. They want to spend those 20 days out in the field. It's they're at we go to some really, really good locations where the activity is good, target heavy, and they want to spend out as much time out there as they can. So that's what I found out.
Awesome.
Yeah. However, you're like in the field, I mean, your workshops abroad, like compared to like doing them at the ranch per se.
Well, the one thing that I've always looked for when I look at new locations on where to do trips and where to do tours, photography at the Santa Clara Ranch is very easy. Everything has been set up ready for photography. Our blinds are set for optimal light, optimal distance to the subject. We pushed our backgrounds back enough so you can blur out the backgrounds. The angles are all, everything's been set up already. So it's very easy photography. You get into our blind and it's set up. I mean, if everything lands 15, 20 feet away, perfect perch, perfect light, perfect background, perfect perspective, because it's set up that way. So when I look for workshop locations, that's what I look for. Costa Rica is a great example, because people always ask me, I want to go on a Costa Rica trip, but how much hiking do we do? How much walking do we do? Our longest hike is 5 minutes.
Wow.
Because we shoot from decks that are already established. We shoot from blinds that are already established. So I try to find the same thing that we've done at the ranch at the locations that I go to. Like I mentioned earlier, I just got back from Finland. We shoot, our main target when we're in Finland is golden eagles, but we're photographing from blinds that are established where the eagles are going to be 20, 25 feet away, where the angle's perfect, the light is great. It's minus 21 degrees outside, but the blinds are heated, so you're comfortably sitting in a blind, photographing, eagles in some extreme conditions. So, that's why I go there, because it's a photography location that's already established, and it's easy photography for for a client. In other words, we're not going to be hiking in minus 20-degree weather, trying to find an eagle where we're going to shoot it backlit, 50 feet up in the air with twigs in the way, right? So I try to find locations that that give me this. So that's kind of what I like to do when I'm scouting for different locations and where to go. Of course, Africa would be a little bit different because Africa we're in safari eagles, but I love Kenya for that reason because the Masai Mara is the grasslands, the photography conditions there are great. It's open, you can get low, you can get some fantastic, it's good light, and you can get some really good images. You can create some really good images out there because the conditions exist for that. So that's kind of what I look for when I'm looking at locations on where to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think like a common mistake, you kind of mentioned this, is when you start out, you just walk through the woods aimlessly, looking for this maybe one subject or multiple subjects, and then, like you said, you get those weird, backlit way up in the tree shots. So I think it's interesting how you find these established locations. The birds get used to them, and you can get way closer shots than you could ever get. It's a great point.
Agreed. And the other thing too is that most of the people that do these trips, a lot of my clients are retired folks. And there's some trips that there's some locations that are very, very good that maybe take an hour, 2 hours to get to by foot. A lot of my clients wouldn't be able to do that physically. So I have to look for locations of what my clientele can do. A lot of my clients are retired people that love to do photography, that love wildlife, but physically, something as physically demanding as a 2-hour hike is just not possible. So you always have to, when you scout a location, you're looking for great photographic conditions, but also seeing what kind of physical level a person will have to, what they would have to do to get there. So that's another thing that, of course, I'm always looking for. When I'm looking at locations.
Right. Yeah. And then like the ranch almost seems like you're photographing in like controlled conditions and settings to get those optimal photographs too.
That is correct. And for example, at the ranch, we drive up to the blind, so there's literally no hiking. And so it's super easy. Our blinds are sunken blinds; they're 3 feet underground. That way, when the animals come to the water holes, your lens is literally at ground level. But you're sitting comfortably in a chair versus laying down on the ground on your stomach shooting off a ground pod, right? So we've made it that you can get some unique perspectives, some really unique angles in a very comfortable situation, sitting in a chair in a blind that's sunken 3 feet down in the ground. So that's kind of what I look for when I'm looking at locations where I can find places like this. And they're out there, they're out there because, there's, wildlife photography is becoming more and more popular everywhere. And, a lot of these places are going up, and people are, a lot of pros like ourselves are understanding that this is what our clients are looking for, and we're going to these locations. This past year, I scouted Simanga Game Reserve in South Africa, and their what we call blinds, they call hides, right? Their hides are just unbelievable. I mean, some of the best photography, hides I've ever seen, and you're in a blind that's sunken underground. And you have lions coming up 10 feet away from you, drinking from the water hole when you're in the blind where they can't see you, and you're at eye level with them as they're coming in to drink. And so the places exist. It's just finding them and getting out there. It's becoming easier for somebody like me to find good locations because more and more are popping up everywhere.
Yeah. I think those blinds probably also help close that skill gap a little bit. If you get a beginner, you can put some blinds, you can kind of help them improve their settings.
Oh no, definitely. Some of the images that people are able to create now because of the conditions that these blinds are built in. What you get from shooting from a blind. You don't have to be a pro to get some fantastic imagery because, of course, everything has been pre-planned for the hide to give you that already.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, how much time in the field is like spent on the workshops versus just like you out there photographing alone or with a group?
Well, me personally, of course, I this year is a little different because I'm doing quite a bit. But when I do go out to photograph by myself, it's very different than I'm like very different. I shoot very differently than if I'm with a client. When I'm out there by myself shooting for me, I'm very target oriented. So in other words, let's say I'm at the ranch by myself and I'm going to go out to shoot. I have something specific or a specific subject that I want to target. So let's say I want to do road runners. I go out with road runners in my mind, and that's all I concentrate all my efforts for. I'll set up for a road runner shoot. I'll set up, whatever I set up is going to be to try to get them. So I'm very target oriented when I'm out there by myself. When I'm out there with clients, of course, it's a more general all around type shoot, all the stuff that comes in, because, I'm not going to go out with a client and tell him, by the way, we're only going to do road runners today. Let's ignore everything else. So I shoot very differently when I'm by myself than compared to like when I'm with clients.
Yeah.
Now, workshops, of course, on different trips that are very target specific. For example, let's say Finland, when we do the golden eagles, those hides are built for golden eagles. Now, the other birds do show up, and we do have setups for other stuff that shows up, like the black woodpecker, the different woodpeckers, the Siberian jays and things that show up. But we're really there for eagles, so our efforts are concentrating on the eagles.
Right. Yeah. And plus with the workshops, I mean, you're more focused, I imagine, on like just teaching the people and being with them in that moment too.
That is correct. And I do shoot when I'm with clients on a workshop, but it's not really a priority. I'm there for them, and I'm shooting more to see what's happening in terms of light. Do we need to overexpose, underexpose, and things like that. So it's in a workshop situation or in a photo tour situation, I'll have a camera with me, but again, it's just to more to see what's happening, more to see what's going on, so I can tell people, okay, guys, full sun, we're shooting a subject that's very light. We need to underexpose this, underexpose one stop or whatever it might be, right? So I do have a camera with me, but again, that's not my priority. I'm there for my clients.
Yeah, for sure. So shifting gears here a little bit, you've featured your images in countless magazines like Nat Geo, Audubon, Nature's Best, and you've been in quite a few competitions and contests like NANPA's annual showcase, National Wildlife Federation. You maybe talk a little bit about how you got into doing those.
Yeah, early on, I one of the big catalysts for me, really, for photography taking off for me, was competing in the Wildlife in Focus photo contest down here in Texas. If you're not familiar with those, it's a pretty brutal contest. You get assigned to a property, and you have they give you 4 months, 3 to 4 months, depending. Every year is a little different, but usually about 4 months, and you have to shoot at that property for 4 months, and you have about 100 categories that you have to shoot, from birds to mammals to reptiles to special categories like sunsets, sunsets, water feature, they're all different kinds of things. And at the end of the 3 months, you submit a 100 image portfolio.
Whoa.
Now that portfolio gets judged, and you can win the different categories. In other words, you can win like the cardinal category, and then you can win like the bird division. But the big prizes are the grand prizes, which is basically the best portfolios, the portfolios that scored the best. And they're brutal because you have a limited amount of time to come up with 100 good images of stuff that the variety is extreme, from anywhere from bugs all the way to birds to mammals to sunsets to landscapes, you name it. So you get to shoot a lot of stuff that it's out of your comfort zone. I started doing these back in 2008. I ended up doing 6 of them, and that was a huge catalyst for me because I fell in love with going out trying to capture things that one, was not easy to capture, and 2, was stuff that I normally would not go after. So that was a huge catalyst for me in terms of competing. And, I was very blessed. I did very well. Out of the 6 that I competed, I did extremely well. And then I started doing a couple of the national contests, and I won a couple of them. I won Nature's Best, the wildlife category, Nature's Best. I've been best of showing NANPA a couple times. I've done well. I've done well in contests, and it's always good to know that what you're putting out, the work that you're putting out, people like it. And for me, it's I still compete in some of the big ones. I don't do as much as I used to anymore, but it's just good to get your name out there and to see that that you're creating imagery that's still appealing. You're creating imagery that's sets you apart from the rest. Like I said earlier, I like to create images that are different. I like to create perspectives, things that are not normally seen, or capture a subject a little bit different, and that will make an image stand out. And then that's usually what I enter in photo contests and see what kind of results I get from them.
Yeah, for sure, and it helps you stand out too, I imagine.
It does. It helps you stand out, and I'll be honest with you, it keeps it interesting for me. It keeps me wanting. It keeps me wanting to do more. Because it's a challenge, right? Sometimes I'll come up with an idea. I come up with an idea. I want to photograph this specific subject this way, and it's going to be, I have to come up with the plan or trying to figure out how to do that. I remember back in the early days before I knew about PhotoTrap, I wanted to photograph a flying owl at night, in flight. I wanted to catch a great horned owl in flight at night. This is before I knew. This is before I knew anything about PhotoTrap. With PhotoTrap now, it's easy, right? But this is way before I knew anything of that. And I set up a plan. I kind of knew where they were coming in, and it took me, I don't remember, but it took me about 2-3 months of about, 20, 30 nights going out there trying to do it till I finally got it. So I'm very driven for things like that, and I'm still that way, and that's what keeps it interesting to me. I mean, to me, the photo, of course, is great, but what I really enjoy is the whole process of going out there, hunting with a camera, hunting a subject, on how you're going to catch him. You have an idea of an angle or perspective that you want to capture, and coming up with the plan to do it properly, right? And to me, that's the most interesting part. That's the most interesting thing of what I do. I really, really enjoy the whole preparation, and even if you fail, I've failed a ton of times, trying to do something and it just doesn't work. But I'm out there enjoying myself. And that's what I really enjoy about wildlife photography, is just the challenge of coming up with something different, coming up with that unique image, and planning, and the whole process of getting it. And of course, getting the image in the end, of course, is the final prize. But and that's great. But what I really enjoy is the whole process of getting there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I think it's like, it really shows your passion for photography, that even with these, 10 to 15 workshops a year, you still get out and shoot for yourself. That's amazing. I try.
I need to keep the interesting going, because a lot of my clients that are also good friends will tell me, don't you get tired now that it's a job? I said, no, I love doing this. I mean, I really, really love doing this. And but you're right, I do need to get out there by myself. I do scouting trips for that reason. I love scouting trips because on scouting trips I go by myself. I go with no clients, so I'm shooting for me. And not that I don't enjoy going out with clients. I really enjoy going out with clients, because what I do is, in the photo tours and the photo workshops, photography is really 50% of the equation. The other 50% is people skills, and being good in teaching, and being good with people, and being able to deal with all different types of personalities. And I've always been a people person, so I enjoy doing what I do. But you're right, getting out there and shooting for yourself, it's a must. At least for me, it's a must. To keep that interest going, and to keep that that passion to capture these subjects a certain way going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I don't know if you feel the same way, but like I try to go out once a week, and I look at it as almost like practice. Like it's just like rehearsing all your muscle memory with like how to dial in the settings and how to compose a photograph. Yeah,
definitely. I get clients that come to the ranch and they tell me, Hector, I want to learn how to do this. Let's say, for example, birds in flight is a big thing. Everybody wants to learn how to do birds in flight. And I'll tell them, look, I'm going to teach you, I'm going to give you settings. I'm going to tell you what focus mode to use. I'm going to tell you, depending on the lens, if you're going to use a gimbal or you're going to use a beanbag. I'm going to give you everything that you need in terms of the technical stuff to get there. But if you don't go out there and practice, it's just not going to happen for you. So you need to get out there. I don't care what you shoot. Go out and go to the beach and shoot seagulls all day. I don't care if you don't save a single image, but build that mental memory on how to pan with with the bird. Learn what dials you need to turn without even thinking, right? You need to overexpose, underexpose automatically without thinking which wheel of the camera has to turn, right? And that, I can teach you all that, but if you don't do it over and over and over, that mental memory doesn't develop. We as wildlife photographers, like I said earlier, we don't have time. Things happen in a second. If you're not fast enough in changing your settings in a second, you're going to miss it. And I can teach you what to change and where to change it, but you have to practice it for it to become, normal, without even thinking. You need to overexpose automatically. You know that your thumb, if you have your thumb set to ISO, your thumb wheel is set to ISO, and you need to overexpose. Automatically, you need to know that 3 clicks to the right means 1 stop on your thumb, right? Or you need to speed up your camera, and your back wheel is your speed. You need to know that, without thinking, 3 clicks on that wheel is going to speed you up, from 1600 to 3200, whatever it might be, right? And that comes with practice. That comes with what you just said, building up that mental memory to be faster with our cameras. Because again, as wildlife photographers, we don't have time. If you're sitting there trying to figure out what settings to dial in and how to crank up your ISO or how to crank up your speed, your subject's gone, right? So I totally agree with you there. Getting out there and practicing and building that, building that knowledge and building that mental memory so you can be better in the field.
Yeah, and that's really important to say too, because you might even get the shot, you get your autofocus right, but then you overexpose it 2 stops, and that key white detail on your bird is blown out. So it's great that you practice that. I think it's great. You shoot common subjects and in hopes of practicing for that killer shot someday. You never know when it comes.
Portfolio worthy.
I think that's great.
Yeah, because clients will tell me, I want to practice, but I don't have the ranch like you do. I don't care. Go shoot seagulls. Go shoot something that you have a lot of. And again, even if you don't keep a single image, you're getting that practice. You're building that mental memory, and that's what's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's just really important with persistence in wildlife photography. You have to keep going out consistently on a consistent basis and really just see what's out there, because you're not going to get that great shot every time. That's just the reality of it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is correct.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How much of your time in your solo trips do you go travel abroad for those, or do you stay more closer to home?
I go everywhere.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Wherever it might be, and it's funny because I'm the kind of person that if I get a call tomorrow, and of course if I have the time, for example, I'll give you a good example. Last year, my Chile trips did not go because of COVID. Chile did not open up their borders. They did in theory, but you had to quarantine for 10 days before they let you do anything. So it was just not possible to run a trip. Nobody was going to go quarantine for 10 days, right? So my trips got canceled. We had to cancel. And then I had an invitation to go to South Africa. So the next day that my trips got canceled, I said, you know what? I'm not going to sit here at home. I have 20 days without anything planned. So the next day I bought a plane ticket, and 2 days later I was on a flight to South Africa.
That's awesome.
So I by myself, to go scout a location, to go shoot over there. And that's when I found out about Simanga, that place I was telling you guys earlier about, the hides that are so phenomenal. So yeah, I kind of, on a whim sometimes, somebody tells me, hey, you need to check this out. And then I have the time, and it's like, I have the time now. I might not have it tomorrow. Let's go. So I've been known to buy tickets to fly the next day to go somewhere.
Right.
Because again, for me, time is it's a big commodity. I don't have a lot of it. So when I do have it, I take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plus, with doing all those wildlife blinds and hides, it's you plan out those kind of shots. But yeah, sometimes it's just great to hop on a plane and have some sort of impromptu trip.
Oh no, definitely. Again, it keeps it interesting. It keeps it interesting. It keeps that drive going to keep doing this. For me, it's easy because I love what I do. I love this. So, but still, it keeps it interesting. It keeps my I guess my juices flowing in wanting to become a better photographer and wanting to do, create new work that I don't currently have, or getting better at this, because even though I've been doing it as long as I have, and now I'm doing it professionally, and now I'm teaching and all that stuff, I can still grow. I'm still growing. I'm still getting better by the day, and nobody's perfect. I don't care how long you've been doing this. You can always still grow. And I tell my clients a lot of times, I learn as much from you as you learn from me sometimes, because it's the sharing of ideas, My workflow and the way I shoot is little bits and pieces I've learned along my journey as a photographer. Okay, I like the way he does this, so I've incorporated that into my workflow, or incorporated that into the way I shoot. I like the way she does this, and so the way I shoot and the way I process my images, it's a combination of things I've learned in in these last 15 years that I've been doing this, full time. And so sometimes I learn as much from my clients as they do from me, and that's the beauty of these photo trips. It's the networking and the sharing of idea between participants, instructors, and participants between themselves that make us all better photographers.
Yeah, and it's not a linear path too. Like everything goes on a different path, and that's a great point there for sure.
And one of the things I always tell my clients, and one of the ways I teach is because people will ask me, should I shoot manual mode? Should I shoot aperture? And I'm a big believer in, if the final product is there, I don't care how you got there. In photography, you can get there multiple ways: shooting manual, shooting aperture, not P, of course, but shooting shutter power. So I don't care how you got there, as long as you're getting there. Now, if you're not getting there, now we have to look at what you're doing to make you get there, right? If the final result is not there, okay, then we have to look at it. But if it's there, who am I to tell you don't shoot that way because I shoot differently? No, by no means. Your result's there. I don't care how you got there, as long as you're getting there. So it's I'm going to teach you how I do it. And then if you like it, you incorporate it into the way you shoot, or maybe incorporate a certain part of it, maybe not the whole of it. But that's up to you. I'm going to teach you how I do it, but I'm not going to tell you that that's the only way. Because it's not. We're all different. Some people's brains work different than others. So, and that's how I learned photography. I've never taken a photography class in my life. I learned from learning from people in the field with the same interest I have, and I like the way, like I said earlier, I like the way he did this, so I incorporated that, and that works for me. This does not work for me, and so on and so forth. And that's how I shoot now. That's how I learned how to shoot from being out in the field practicing with other photographers.
Yeah, you're out there almost like just exchanging ideas and just how to take better photographs, which I think is the beauty of it, really too. And plus with digital, and maybe you found this to be the case, Hector, is like you may go back at like your older images from years ago and see how much you've improved since then.
I am a huge believer in going back and looking at your old work. Yes, because we learn from it. On my newsletter, I have a monthly newsletter that goes out to clients and people that follow me. I remember writing an article about that. Go back to the images that you took 5, 6, 7, even longer ago, and see where you have progress. See what you have done, and that just enforces what you've done. And that just enforces and really drills it in, so that you can understand. Okay, yes, what I'm doing now works better than what I was doing back then. So I agree with you there. It's going back to your old images and seeing what you were doing back then compared to what you're doing now.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, as you've mentioned, you spent a lot of time out in the field. I know this is going to be a hard question. You don't have to answer it if it's too hard. But what is some of your favorite in the field stories or memories?
Oh God, I have quite a few. To be honest with you.
Narrow down to like 1 or 2, maybe.
Oh God. I'm gonna say maybe the first time I went to Africa. The first time I went to Kenya, and getting out on the Mara and realizing that it is a mecca for wildlife photography, and everything that we saw and everything that we got to photograph. I was like a kid in the candy store. I'm not gonna lie to you, and it was just so thrilling to be out there and everything that we were seeing. I'm a lover of cats, so of course photographing the cheetahs, the lions, the leopards. It was just to the point that I said, I don't care what I do, I need to come back to Africa every year. If I could move there, I've moved there. And,
wow.
So I'm gonna say that was probably one. Now, one question I do get asked a lot is, what is my favorite subject to photograph? And I love everywhere I go. Don't get me wrong, and all the locations that I travel to. but photographing mountain gorillas for me is just an experience like no other.
Yeah.
For many reasons. You know how hard it is to get to them, how few of them are left. Once you're with them, you realize how close they are. You know, we're a couple chromosomes away from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so that whole experience, it's probably my favorite subject to photograph. Not that I don't like I said, I love cats. I love to photograph cats. The reason my logo's a cheetah is because I love cheetahs. I love bobcats. I love, anything that any cat, So I love photographing cats as well. But I would say, top experiences as a wildlife photographer. Of course, my first time in Africa, that was pretty special. The other one is when I discovered early on in my photography, when I discovered, instead of going to state parks to photograph, going on private land and using pre-existing blinds.
Oh yeah.
That really opened up my eyes, and I said, "Oh my God, I've been doing this wrong."
Yeah.
So that was probably another big one. And then just the different experiences that that have happened along the way. Being I remember one year we were photographing up in Rocky Mountain National Park, and this was not very smart on our part. We got so into the photography that we're doing the elk rut, and we're photographing this elk bull up in this beautiful meadow, and he's bugling. He's got all these cows around it, and all of a sudden we hear this bugle, and it's right behind us.
Oh my gosh.
And I turn around, and there's this ginormous bull maybe 15 feet away from us, and we're between the two bulls, and not a single tree to get behind.
Oh my gosh.
So we basically got tunnel vision. We got, and it was four of us. It's me and three of my photography buddies. And thank God it was not clients. It was me and my friends. and we're like, okay, but this is not good. We're in trouble here. But luckily, and this bull was showing some aggressive behavior. Ears were down. He was nodding his head. And I said, okay, we're about to get run over here. But luckily, no, he kind of went around us, and we just kind of easily slowed our way back to where the tree line was. And, but experiences like that, right? I don't know, that was a little on the scary side, but just experiences like that kind of just bring back, good memories of being out in the field, getting, going out and just having a phenomenal day of activity. And again, the images to me is the final prize, but the whole experience to me, that's what makes it for me. Again, I've been an outdoorsman my entire life. When I'm born and raised in Honduras, so I've been in nature for, my entire life. And when I moved to Texas in my late teens, I fell in love with the South Texas brush, and I fell in love with everything associated with the outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what makes it for me, just being out in the field, capturing wildlife that I truly enjoy watching and observing. And again, it's the whole process basically is what makes it for me.
Yep. Yeah, you really have to realize that it's the observation first, and then once you observe,
definitely.
Photos.
And you become a better photographer. One of the webinars that I teach is becoming a better wildlife photographer, and a big part of that is observing and understanding and knowing your subject. Understanding what, if you don't know how your subject acts or reacts or what they do at a certain time of year, you're not going to capture that behavior. You're not going to capture that specific image that you're after. Wildlife knowledge and wildlife behavior knowledge it's a huge part of what we do as wildlife photographers, and understanding what happens, how these subjects react and how the wildlife react, and also how to do it properly without putting pressure on them, without disturbing them. Making it safe that that you're safe, and not only you're safe, but also your subject is safe. No image is worth it if you're putting a subject in harm's way, or you're stressing out a subject. That's one thing I teach quite a bit. I'm a true believer in leaving no mark, leaving no footsteps behind, and so that whole challenge of being able to do this, doing it ethically, doing it right, keeping yourself safe, and of course keeping your subject safe as well. It's all part of the process, and that's what I enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, conservation is a big part of your work, you'd say.
Yes, it is. I work with Texas Parks and Wildlife. I'm an ambassador for Texas Parks and Wildlife, and I've done quite a bit of projects with them, from the We Will Not Be Tame ambassadorship with them. So yes, I do believe I'm a huge believer in conservation. For example, our ranch has a conservation easement on the property that brush will never be torn down, and the property will stay like that forever. It's a federal conservation easement put on there to make sure that that brush and that habitat never goes away. So yes, I'm a true believer in conservation, and I work with a lot of the people that I work in international with. Costa Rica is a good example. The Quebec people, which is the Quetzal people, they're huge conservationists about making sure that the habitat is not touched and that the birds that we photograph are safe. And so that's a big part of what I do.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's a really, I think, important part, especially with most wildlife photographers. I mean, some can you can take images on their own, of course, of wildlife, that's great. But like when you really add the extra, almost like dimension to the work too, it really just, provides a whole new storytelling, I guess, meaning to it.
Correct. Yeah. No, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So shifting gears here, I know, because photography is, it's all about the gear, I guess, in a sense. What kind of gear do you use for the shots that you take?
Okay, I shoot Sony. I'm a Sony Pro, and I'm primarily a prime lens user and a fixed lens user. I shoot with most of my work is with either a 500 or a 600. When I shot Nikon before I switched back to Sony, I shot mostly with my 500 prime, and now I shoot mostly with my 600. Not that I'm against zoom lenses, it's just that I just like the quality of a prime lens better in it. Quality-wise, if you look at my work, you're gonna find out really quickly that I love good backgrounds. I'll go halfway across the world, and if the backgrounds are not there, I don't.
Right.
So, to me, backgrounds are just as important as the subject itself, and of course, I get better backgrounds with a prime lens. I'm primarily a prime lens shooter.
I don't know if you'd say it for blinds, but like a prime, is kind of optimal there because you kind of optimize the distance and everything with that. So.
Correct, and that's why and that's why I shoot. That's why my photography is mostly with a fixed lens, because I position myself correctly for the lens that I'm using. Because I'm using blinds, I'm using decks. I'm not, don't get me wrong. I do go out into the bay sometimes to do shorebirds, and yes, sometimes I have to put a converter on, or sometimes I'm just too far away. But ideally, I go to locations where the distances are set to the type of lens that I'm going to be using. And the other thing too, I mean, sometimes, I'm with a 600 and I'm shooting small birds and something big comes in. I like the challenge of, okay, I have a subject now that does not fit on this lens. I have too much glass. How can I get an image, maybe some kind of an intimate portrait or some kind of abstract? I'm a big believer, and I teach this a lot, is work the lens that's on your hand. Because you don't have time to put that lens down, grab the other one, because by then your subject's gone, or what's happening is over, right? So I like to, if something happens that I have too much glass, I'll work it, because if I know that if I put that lens down and I start looking for my other one, if it's in my bag or whatever, by the time I pull it out and get it ready, whatever's happening is over. So I'm a big believer in working the lens that you have in your hand. And if you look at some of my Africa work, for example, some of the elephant, when I'm photographing elephants and I'm photographing them with a 600, I can barely fit their head in, much less the whole body. And I just like to work those nice abstracts, those nice perspectives of, working the curves, working different things of some intimate portraits like that. Because again, I like the lens that I have I'm using the hand, which is normally my 600.
Right.
So I'm a big believer in support. I'm always in some kind of support: tripod, monopod, ground pod, beanbag. I rarely handhold. Rarely. I mean, you will not see me handholding pretty much anywhere. I mean, it's very rare that you'll see me handholding. I'm a big believer in using a support because I use big glass, and it's hard to hold big glass. So, and again, I shoot mostly from decks, blinds, established locations, vehicles. Things like that. So I'm always on some kind of support. I don't hike chasing stuff, so I'm always carrying my my support, being it a tripod or a monopod or a beanbag or something like that. I'm if you look at my cameras, the way my cameras are set up, I really don't do much. I know nowadays, I shoot the Sony A1, and it has so many custom functions and so many custom menus and so many custom buttons that you can assign. I'll be honest with you guys, I really don't do none of that. I basically set my back button focus, I turn the focusing modes I don't like off, and that's it. I'm old school. I mean, I shoot manual and that's it. I don't need a special button for a different focusing mode. I'm old school. I just shoot. So I'm not very technical in terms of how to. I know how to use my camera. Don't get me wrong, but in terms of we all have that friend that has every button on that camera programmed to do a different thing, right? I don't do that. I basically set a couple things. Like I say, I set up my back button focus. I do on my menu so I can get to the menu items that I use a lot. I turn some focusing modes off that I don't need, and that's really. So I just shoot manual and I just change my settings as needed, right?
I mean, it seems like it's working for you. So
Definitely.
It is. It's working. So why change it if it's not broken, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Less fussing around with the buttons, of course, and like you said, the burner flies away.
Yeah. I have clients and I have friends that tell me, "Oh, you know what? If you set this button to this, and that's too much information, bro. You're gonna confuse me here, because then I'm thinking, okay, which button did he say you need to? Nah, I just shoot full manual and I just change as needed.
Yeah, back button focus is the only priority, I would say, or requirement.
No, back button focus is a priority. And again, these cameras, especially these new mirrorless cameras, they have like 50 different focusing modes. So of course I turn off the ones I don't use because I don't want to be toggling through all of those to get to the ones I like. Right. So I'll go in there and I'll turn the focusing modes that I want to use. I'll just leave the ones that I like, and that way when I go from one to the other, I can easily find them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's great.
And that's interesting. You said kind of experimenting too with your gear. Like you've probably gotten all the standard portraits over the years, and now you have more time to kind of look into those more unique shots.
No, definitely. It's one thing one question or one comment that I get a lot. Is like, for example, when I shoot in South Texas, especially at the ranch, they'll tell me, "Hector, you've been at the ranch 12 years. Aren't you bored?" No, I'm not bored. Every day's different. Every day I'm looking for something different to shoot, or a unique perspective, or a unique image. I'm not bored. Don't get me wrong. There's some stuff I don't shoot anymore because, again, I have plenty. But I'm not bored because I'm always out there. And even when I'm out there shooting with clients, I'll still shoot, our common stuff, green jays, cardinals. And to be honest with you guys, I might not even do anything with those images. I might just do them and not even download them. But again, I'm building that mental memory, right? What we talked earlier. I'm practicing. I'm learning. I'm getting better at, switching from, 1200 of a second to 4000ths of a second in a matter of knowing how many clicks I need to turn that wheel. So I'm building that mental memory. I'm getting that practice I need to become better by shooting a subject that I already have a ton of stuff of. But I'm still out there shooting. I got to be out there with my client. Why not, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not bored. Even though I've been there for 12 years, I'm not. I enjoy every time I'm out there. By myself or with a client.
Yeah, and with the digital age too, it doesn't cost any money.
It doesn't cost anything. That's right. It's not going to hurt me. So yeah, no, I don't. And or people will say, "You've been going to this location for many years. Aren't you tired?" No, of course not. It's, every year is different. I mean, I'll give you an example. Today at we have a photo blind that we use here to photograph cranes. This afternoon was fantastic. We had cranes with young ones. We had cranes calling. Yesterday we didn't have none of that. So from one day to the next, it can change.
Yep.
So I mean, it's I don't get tired of going out at locations that I've been there many. No, because every day's there. As a wildlife photographer, and you guys know, every day is different. Mm-hmm, every day gives you a different opportunity. Every day you'll see some unique behavior that you didn't see before, or So no, I don't get tired, even though I've been going to some of these locations for.
Right. Yeah, especially, or even over the years, like just seeing habitats change, hopefully for the better at least. But yeah, same with that, where you just got like the same kind of species that you may be photographing, but the creative possibilities are really endless too.
Correct. And I know I say this all the time. I rather photograph a cardinal, which is a very common subject, in great conditions than a rare bird in bad conditions. I'm not going to go hike 10 miles to go photograph a rare bird backlit with twigs in the way 50 feet higher than that.
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, that's not fun for me. But I'll photograph a cardinal in perfect conditions all day long.
Yeah.
Because I'll get a unique perspective. I'll get a unique behavior, a beautiful wing flare, a one flying or landing with a perfect background, perfect, golden light coming up front. I'll do that every day, all day long. before I go and photograph a rare bird in bad conditions.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, awesome.
So that's me.
That's a great attitude, I would say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's wrong to do the other thing. I mean, everybody has different interests, right? There's some people that it's all about the rarities, right? And that's fine. I'm not saying that's wrong, but that's not me. I mean,
Yeah, and some people do
yeah.
even like Ray Hennessy, those kind of people. They like backlit. It's just kind of comes down to your style. What you're trying to do. Whether you're trying to do kind of more of an artsy shot, documentation. It's kind of all.
And there's nothing wrong with documentation shots. Again, everybody's different. I'm not saying that's bad. I mean, it's just not how I shoot. I have friends that love to go. There's a report of a Amazon kingfisher here in Texas, which is very rare, and they'll drive 10 hours to go photograph this guy in some horrible conditions, but they come back happy as ever because they got to see him, and that's perfect. They're having fun, and that's what matters, right? But that's them, everybody's different, and I'm not saying that's wrong or right, or I'm right or they're wrong. It's just everybody's different. For me, it's about getting that perfect light, perfect background, perfect perspective. I don't care if it's something as common as a cardinal. I'll do that all day long.
Yeah,
For sure, yeah. Yeah, it's all about, I guess, your approach with it, really. Yeah.
It is. No, it is.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and again, it's everybody's different, and that's how I like to shoot. That's what drives me, is just trying to get that, that unique image, even though it's a common subject, but very unique image that might not be, photographing a common subject in a way that is not normally photographed. That's kind of what I'm after.
Well, that's yeah, and keep up the great work. It's amazing. Your workshops, your photos, it's spectacular. So
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Much appreciated.
yeah, we really appreciate you coming on tonight. So where's the best place for people to look at your work?
A couple places. I would say to see the most of my work, you can find me on Instagram. And then Instagram is my name, Hector_Astorga_photography. If you just search Hector Astorga Photography, it'll come right up. A lot of my work gets posted on Instagram. And then if you want to find out a little bit more about me and my workshops and the things that I do, that would be on my website. And my website is also my name. It's hectorastorga.com.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Both of those will be linked down below as well for anybody who's interested. And thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, Hector.
My pleasure, guys. Thank you for having me. It's always great to talk to fellow photographers.
You as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching the All Outdoors Photography Podcast. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the video version on YouTube as well. You can subscribe down below, and we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thank you.